All right guys, today we're going to be talking about parts and why it seems that there are always repair delays waiting on parts. We're going to go over some of the reasons why you get stuck waiting on parts. And it's not always the same person's fault. It could be your tech or the dealer or the parts guy. So let's go over what really causes that. The first thing that we see is the most obvious thing. I know you're thinking it, and everyone's done it at some point, and it's just lying. The shops know that you don't know anything about what's going on, and if they get behind or they forgot to do something and they're just trying to get the pressure off of their back, they can just tell you, hey, we're waiting on parts. There's really not much you can do to prove it. You can always say, hey, they sent it without a tracking number, or I'm just waiting on a dealer to approve something, and that does happen a lot. If you're going to a good shop though, someone you trust, which is what you should be doing, the chances of this happening are much lower. So if you're going to some cheapo shop, just be prepared to have to deal with this excuse coming up. And it's kind of hard to press the shop and get the real facts. If they're going to be liars, they're going to lie about a lot of things. The second reason that you might be waiting on parts that we're going to talk about also falls on the shop or the technician, and that is lack of preparation. When you order parts through a shop, they get them at a wholesale price and then they sell them to you for a list or marked up even. At the dealer, they have something called Price 6, which is significantly marked up over the list price. Now the reason for this is because in order to get the parts right, it takes a lot of very tedious work. You have to go through and look at repair manuals, see procedures, see what has to be removed, see if there are non-reusable items, and then you have to go through parts diagrams to pull these part numbers, and then you're supposed to call the dealer with those part numbers and a VIN to verify that there have been no technical service bulletins that have superseded these parts with better replacements that may solve an old problem. So there's a lot of work that goes into it. Just to give you an example, I have a 2015 Aston Martin V12 Vantage S, one of my favorite cars. Came in with a ton of check engine lights, and the client was wanting to get it done the correct way, but wanted to know why he's having so many problems. And after testing some of the components, it didn't seem like the components were the issue, but when going to the ECM to check on the wiring harness, I noticed there was a ton of oil in the plug for the ECM. So I went immediately to solenoids that handle the timing, the oil pressure sensor, and the oil level sensor. All of these items have oil being put into the sensors on a regular basis, and if you unplug those, as you can see here, there's a ton of oil coming out that was just getting forced up the wiring harness into the computer. So to fix this problem, we had to replace the oil level sensor and the oil pressure sensor. He asked me to quote this job. I go to the repair manual and I see that half of the intake manifold has to come off in order to get access to the sensor. Well, with the vehicle being the age that it is, I checked out the motor and see that the valve covers are slightly seeping, and it's also due for spark plugs, and you have to remove the intake to do the spark plugs. So at this point, I call the client and I show him this diagram, and as you can see, there are a ton of O-rings and gaskets and parts that you have to carefully consider. Will these need to be replaced? Can I reuse them and get away with it for a few more years? So it's a lot of work. If a tech is a good shop and it's someone that you trust and you're going to regularly, then you should not have this reason for waiting on parts as much. But again, if you're going to these cheap shops, you're more likely to have either a delay or someone trying to do some band-aid and patch it up, and then you'll have problems a little bit down the road. The third reason, them going into the car to work on it and then breaking something. And with the rise in plastics in the engine bay, these plastics become very brittle, and there are hoses that are plastic, there's covers and clips that are plastic that get very brittle, and just trying to remove them, even doing it the right way from the repair manual, they often break. And then you've got a technician there that's stuck with a car half open and parts that have to be ordered. And this is the worst for a shop, because now you have to pay employees to put the car back together enough to hobble it out into the parking lot. And if you're pushing it, then the increased risk of damaging a steering rack or the car due to forcing the steering wheel without the engine running, it can be very, very time consuming and difficult. So for that reason, this is really frustrating. And again, going to a better shop, you probably will have this happen less often than going to a cheap shop. What's up, buddy? You lonely over there? It's okay. You wanna say hi? Up. Oh, you didn't put your paws on the table. All right, good boy, buddy. All right, come on, bed. Good boy, buddy. Okay. All right, so Micah, does that mean that if you do your preparation and you don't break stuff, that there are no delays? Sadly, that is not the case. It doesn't matter where you get your parts from. You can't control the humans that are on the other side of that computer getting your parts ready for you. Dealers mess up all the time. They give you part numbers that have been superseded and no longer work with the car. They can't find proper part numbers, or the VIN is not got the right part number stored with your car, so they'll give you a part the system says should fit and it doesn't fit. Or they'll grab the wrong product off the shelf, or the manufacturer will have a defect in the product. And it is a constant problem. And it doesn't matter which brand you're talking about. As a matter of fact, we made another video on 5 times high-end dealers screwed me on parts just in the last year. And this is not even all of them. This is just 5 different brands. So it keeps it interesting for you, where they've just screwed me on parts and there's nothing I can do about it. And that's not even including shipping problems and COVID and all that. It's just, well, watch the video, you'll see. One of my favorite speakers is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. In one of his amazing speeches, he talks about what you do and how you do your job. And I'm just gonna end the video with this. Try to remind everyone that this is great for everyone to remember and that we should apply it to our lives, because we would all be having a much better existence.
If it falls your lot to be a street sweeper, sweep streets like Michelangelo painted pictures, sweep streets like Beethoven composed music, sweep streets like Leontine Price sings before the Metropolitan Opera, and sweep streets like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Sweep streets so well that all the host of heaven and earth will have to pause and say, here lived a great street sweeper who swept his job well. If you can't be a pine on the top of the hill, be a scrub in the valley. But be the best little scrub on the side of the rill. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. If you can't be the sun, be a star. For it isn't by size that you win or you fail. Be the best of whatever you are.